So Mark, how did we get started with Lenity Financial anyway, or in this business? Where did it all begin?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I guess, somebody might find it interesting to know kind of how we all kind of got here, but taking a half step back, right? And kind of just discussing, what it was, what our motivation was to even enter the industry. Because, clearly over the last, couple of decades that we've been involved in finance, we've evolved as everybody does.
Weren't there cranes or something involved for you?
Yeah, well, of course. I mean, who doesn't dream of cranes and large earth-moving machines when they're 6 or 7 years of age, and that I was no different than anybody else, except for maybe my wonder was the machines were really incredible, unto themselves, but I wanted to know, well, for some reason, I wanted to know, well, how did people buy them? I just wanted to understand sort of the economics of how does somebody afford a crane? How does somebody buy a crane?
The money part of it,
The money part of it, really. Just sort of dialed into that. And I as I aged and my thought evolved, I wanted to understand money and how money works. And that path of how money works led me into understanding all of the various tools that are available as investors that we have at our disposal with regards to putting that money to work. So the old adage, how to make money without always having to work for it sort of came into focus for me as a young adult and then as an investor. And that line of thought got me involved into reading and learning and education as it pertains to my degree in finance, and that led me to interviewing with a global wealth manager.
Which is where we met.
Ultimately getting that job where we met, and then against company policy, moving forward and getting engaged and married and having 2 beautiful children.
Yeah. We did have to kind of sneak around quietly outside of the office. Anyway, it was a really, that's a good story. No, that's true. Thinking about money, how money works. It wasn't so, complex for me. It was kind of where I fell. I fell into, in between college years, working for a trust services area of a bank, believe it or not. I was a teller or a banker while I was in college to help make a little cash, to get me through school. And then really just, coming out of college, interviewed for, believe it or not, being a sales associate or sales assistant for a global wealth management firm, and got the job. It was one of the most grueling interviews, though. I think it was 4 or 5 execs, including an advisor I was going to work with at the time. And it was a stressful interview. I can remember it like it was yesterday. But that experience, I stayed there nearly 20 years and became a senior, vice president in financial vice president of investments and financial advisor, working with businesses as well, for nearly 20 years. And that experience was a great one. And you and I were in the same training class, believe it or not, to become an advisor. So that's really how we got to know each other too. So
now, speaking of stress, I remember thinking about how much I learned, and I did have a great exposure, while studying for my bachelor degree in investments, and it gave me sort of a broad understanding of different investment types, which I super duper appreciate. But I remember sitting there at that global wealth manager behind the desk, behind the computer, and for at least several months feeling like my learning curve was vertical.
Yeah.
But that actually was really the seed that the roots began to come, the kind of the kernel, the seed that really started to go deep into the earth with regards to my understanding and love and appreciation for finance, for people who, like myself, who are perpetually curious and wanting to learn. It was a great way. Finance involves almost every aspect of our life, and we're constantly learning. And if it's not about our markets here domestically, it's overseas. But in today's environment, we can invest and do invest in quite a bit, almost anything that's available out there. So it's super duper interesting, super duper fascinating.
Well, it's interesting for us, but one of the reasons, people come to us for help is because they're maybe not as interested or not as curious, but yet they know they need to get. And
thank goodness, because it gives us an opportunity to do what we do. Right?
Very appreciative of that. Yeah. And what's wonderful is that we can educate. The people we get the opportunity to work with, we get to educate them along the way as much or as little as they want.
I love how we do that. Yeah. It's sort of the tip of the wave or deep dive or anywhere in between. There's no question that's too big or too small. And I think that we do a great job, working with people and and I know it's cliche, but sort of meeting them where they're at, but being able to, we do a great job avoiding acronyms and sort of,
I hope so,
speaking in a way that is really germane to our industry and in a way that I think a lot of people understand and appreciate. Yeah,
because a lot of people really don't have an interest in knowing and taking a deep dive like you or I.
That's understandable.
But it sure is.
If they had decided a beautiful, wonderful career in manufacturing widgets, I would know more, or be as inclined to learn about those widgets as they were than they about
kind of
what
though
we do
interesting
in
on our side is to get to know about those widgets through the eyes of the people and what they, people we work with and what they do. I think that's one of the fascinating things about what we do as the people, that we get to know a little bit more about things that we wouldn't have otherwise known. I find that just sort of an unusual aspect of what we do that's really fascinating.
And kind of picking it up from there, if you will, at the Global Wealth Manager and really getting married, having our first child, first house, 2 cars, all of those things. Going through sort of the .com bubble, the September 11th.
Do you remember where we were?
Oh, of course.
When that happened?
Of course I do.
Were we driving to a meeting? Because we were with the same management, financial management firm at the time. And we, kind of heard on the radio, right? Just before we went into the meeting that there had been some sort of crash into a twin tower in New York. And that was jolting, just hearing that. And we were a little late that day, to the meeting, but that was jolting. And so we were blessed to go in.
Personally speaking, not nearly as, people, you can't underestimate really the severity of an experience like that for some. Personally speaking, we had gotten married in July of that year. In September, the towers had collapsed. But
just 2 months
I remember
later.
On our way into work one morning thinking that I was going to be an advisor or married, but not both. So that was a real bugger.
After that event.
A real sort of awakening. And fast forward then with regards to sort of diversification of experience and kind of what led us to where we are, to launching Lenity Financial. Not only gained experience in a global financial services firm, but we decided during the recession, or right about the recession in the early part of that decade, that we needed to diversify because of the amount of adult sort of responsibilities that we gained along the way by getting married and beginning to have children and things of that nature. I moved on to a super regional bank to help us diversify, so we were less reliant on that global financial services firm, and thought we would gain by the diversification of the experience. Got formal credit trading and got a firsthand knowledge of lending. So we do a great job in understanding both sides of our clients' balance sheets.
I actually did a lot of. We could work at that global wealth management firm that I was with for 20 years.
That's right.
I was able to work on both the asset and liability side of the balance sheet and did a lot in the liability work.
That's right. I remember the video that they did, an interview of you, and that was shared with the entire firm. I thought that was really cool. I was still there.
That was my first time on video. So
no, you did a great job.
Yeah.
After that, super regional, I went on to work for an asset manager who is known around the world for what they do. It had been sort of an offshoot of a very well-known family, world-renowned. And that came to an end, as well as the unit that I worked for had been sold, but not until 7 or 8 years after I had begun working for that firm. So that kind of led us to really, writing our business plan originally for what later became Lenity Financial, which actually began, believe it or not, in 2008, 2009, where Lisa and I had decided to really kind of pump the brakes and kind of stay where we were at that moment.
Well, one of the things that occurred is, in 2008, it was a devastating time, great financial recession, and looking around at neighbors and those, friends of family or what have you, and hearing some of the stories about how they handled things through that most difficult time, not so great. Both housing and financial markets were down significantly, and some people made decisions that weren't in their best interest because they didn't have a solid financial partner, someone who understood them, who knew them, who had a relationship with them to understand how to get them through that very difficult time. And so that was really at that time, we almost started our business. And we decided to hold off from that because we felt at the time, particularly for me, I felt my clients were better off with me staying put, staying where I was, because it was really such an unnerving moment for people. And I was glad I did. And because candidly, it was a few years later that that transition you figured was likely to happen with your firm.
But even before then, take a half step back, because you went on a medical sabbatical.
Yeah, forgot about that. Yeah. We've been through a few things. Yeah. 2012, it was pretty difficult to move, to walk. It sounds strange, right? But thankfully, I was able to do, prior to this, our first, what was the first triathlete? Yeah. Mini, it's called a sprint triathlon.
Yeah.
And it was really in that triathlon that I realized.
Was that in 2012?
No, it was before that. But that's when I started realizing there was something wrong, right? Okay. Remember? So, 2012 is when I couldn't go forward, but...
Yeah, I believe, if my memory serves me correctly, I was in a train station in Philadelphia, and I got the call, and you asked if it was okay if you retired at that moment, and you did. Yeah. And fast forward to 2015, I had realized that Lisa's health got a lot better, and I know, because I've worked with hundreds, if not thousands, of financial advisors around the country, but mostly some of the largest money centers in the country, that Lisa's among the best financial advisors. And we dusted off our business plan that, again, we began writing in 2008. And by August of 2016, we launched Lenity Financial, which puts us in our eighth year
starting our 8th year,
financial advisors as Lenity Financial, and having a great time. And hopefully our clients are too. We do get that feedback that they enjoy working with us, and have even found it fun. We try to make it all about them. Yeah. And even though we've done a lot of talking, we actually try to ask the questions that get our clients to really focus on themselves for that time that they're with us, and really allows us the opportunity.
Yeah, our goal is to make it seamless and just enjoyable when we sit down with folks and go over their financial situation.
To your point earlier with regards to people are more or less inclined, we get that. Yeah. We don't want to make it arduous. We don't want to make it difficult for them. We want to make it smooth, and we like though to eliminate or reduce as well as we can the amount of distractions that they have, that we all have, and really kind of focus in on what it is that they're trying to accomplish, so that we can help them the best way that we know possible.
Until next time.
Until next time.